So the title of my presentation is Academic Honesty Online. And the first thing I want to do is focus on that online part of it for a moment, because I think that's kind of significant. Let's look at the history of recorded music, and it'll make sense in a minute. It's going to be kind of a roundabout way, but it'll all come together in the end. So just stick with me for a while. So we're talking about the history of recorded music and how that relates to the internet and academic honesty. It'll all make sense. Just trust me. All right. So we've got vinyl records, right? I'm not an artist, by the way. You're going to find out really soon. And then what happened after that? We'll skip the 8 tracks and we'll go right to cassette tapes. So cassette tapes became CDs, smaller discs, and over here MP3s were this digital thing that you can find on the internet. All right. How about what's something else? We can talk about video. I mean, that's a little more fragmented, but a lot of video is now online. That took sort of the same route with some kind of a tape kind of thing and a disc kind of thing, and then now we can watch videos online, streaming videos. How about who's used an atlas lately? Anybody? A map? Who uses paper maps still? Okay, a couple of you. Do a lot of you use Google Maps instead? Or maybe a GPS? Something like that? So I think that a lot of things, like maybe, who's used a phone book, the Yellow Pages lately?
Online.
Online, exactly. Right? So I think that things like even books and paper media. All right, this is supposed to be a map here, so I'm trying. Newspapers. What happened to newspapers? Right? Are they being replaced by blogs? Are they being replaced by websites that the newspapers are now moving their content into? Let's see if I can do a newspaper here. Okay? So all these things, where are they all ending up? In this one location, the internet. Okay? There used to be all these distinct physical media. They're all getting funneled into a single place. The other interesting thing about the internet now is that you have all these new convergences between production and consumption, and between professional and amateur, and between public and private. And all these lines are really getting blurred. Where it used to be very clear what these things represented and how you could view them and how you could access them. And now, things about authority and appropriateness and just all kinds of things, the lines are getting very blurred. And I think part of the reason for that is because they all exist in the same space. Okay? So an example, if we come back to recorded music, when was there ever an overlap between stealing and sharing? Okay, you know what I'm talking about here? Are you stealing music or are you sharing files? And there's some debate about what lens to look at that through, okay? So this is just trying to set the tone for what I'm going to talk about as far as academic honesty online. I'm not trying to make excuses for today's students or anything. This is just kind of the environment that they're working in. Because now learning, which is also occurring online in so many ways, all this stuff is media and it's information, really. It's information. So now they're learning and they're doing assignments and they're taking quizzes and they're doing that in the same space as the information. So some of these blurred lines might be impacting how they view academic honesty. All right, so a little bit about me. I wear a lot of hats. I have to. I don't have a lot of coverage up top. My current role is right now I'm the Learning Technology Center Manager for the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay here. On the side, I also do some independent reviews and online facilitations for an organization called Quality Matters, which deals with online learning and assessing quality of course design. In the past, I've been an instructional designer, a technologist, an adjunct instructor. and a technical writer in higher education. For fun, I'm a volunteer wild animal handler, so I like to play with wild animals at the nearby wildlife sanctuary here in Green Bay. And I'm also a drummer, which those two are actually quite similar. You know, when you're playing with a lot of guitar players and singers, it's kind of like wild animal handling. Anyway, so that's about me. Tell me a little bit about yourself using your figures. Okay, good mix, mostly faculty, instructors. Do you think plagiarism in student work is a serious problem? Okay, pretty much the majority here. And why do you think cheating is a problem? Okay, a little of everything. Too easy with the internet and lack of understanding are kind of up top. What did I not include on this list that maybe I could have? Okay, everybody does it, so why can't I? No big deal, kind of thing. So they're not getting the level of training in the earlier grades that maybe they could. How do you think cheating most commonly occurs? Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about what we did. We conducted some similar research of the questions that I just asked you. We also polled all our faculty and students here on the UW Green Bay campus. It started as an idea out of the Library and Instructional Technology Committee, and we wanted to create separate surveys for faculty and students to compare their perceptions of whether it's a problem, how big of a problem is it, why they think it occurs, things like that. Things like the questions I just asked you, and I'll talk about some of those results in a second, see if it's consistent with what you just answered. We also worked with our Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning, who they also saw that this was kind of a hot topic issue around that same time, and they were holding roundtable discussions, and they were doing some other programs related to plagiarism and student learning. So it was kind of good timing for that. So we conducted the survey, and one of the interesting results that we saw was that one of the first questions was, how serious of a problem do you think student plagiarism is at Green Bay? And you'll see that the very serious number, and by the way, can you tell which one is the faculty results and which is the student results based on these charts? Faculty's on the left. Because the very serious is the same, it's 15% for both. Somewhat serious is much higher on the faculty side, and where those answers don't exist on the student side are right down below in that next option, not too serious, okay? So, while a lot of students do think that plagiarism is serious, there, not as many. More students think that it's not too serious compared to faculty. So that's not unexpected, but it was interesting. We also found that among self-reported answers, significantly less dishonesty and cheating occurs among non-traditional, that's 25 years old and older, among non-traditional students. Over 90% of the students accused of plagiarism felt that they were treated fairly in the process. However, we don't know if that process was consistent with what our institutional policies are, because we found that there was consistency between what faculty stated the consequences are and what students felt they should be, but it wasn't what the students felt actually happened. When students were accused of plagiarism, they didn't think that the process that happened after that was what it should be, but what they thought should be was what the faculty said, here's the policy, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so the faculty understand the policy and they say, here's what it is, okay? And the students say, you know what should happen when we're accused of plagiarism, this, and this, which was exactly what our institutional policy is. But what really happens, they didn't think was really quite right. So there's a little mismatch there. Okay, so the faculty are stating, here's the policy, here's what happens. Students are saying, here's what happens in reality, but it's not right. It should be what this is, and that happens to be the policy. Okay, I know that sounds really complicated, but it was really surprising results. Okay, so why does this happen? The faculty and students probably one of the highest answers was the convenience of the web. Okay, and convenience both in terms of, like what I was saying earlier about the information is right there. I mean, you're working on a test or an assignment, and the information is just right there. I mean, open a new tab, Wikipedia, plop, there it is. It takes 5 seconds, right? Also, if you're a student today and you're working a job and maybe you have a family and you just have so many things going on, that 5 seconds to just add some content to your paper may be really useful. Okay, so I don't know, time commitment, workload, if those are factors that contribute to this. And lack of awareness, like you're saying, maybe they weren't trained in the earlier grades. Maybe they don't understand how to properly cite works. Maybe they're just overwhelmed by MLA and APA and all these different formats and how to do it, and when do I cite in line versus a bibliography. Maybe it's just too complicated. That's not an excuse, again, but maybe more education, more training, making them aware of how to do these things might address that if it is a source of this problem. Okay? Who's heard of Turnitin.com? This is a clicker question. Okay, that was just kind of for fun. So most people have heard of it. Turnitin.com, well, I guess I should explain it. Turnitin.com is an anti-plagiarism web-based application where students will give you their Word document or whatever kind of paper assignment in electronic form. You send it through Turnitin.com. It'll scan against databases of online journals and online sources and other student papers, and it'll check for matches. Okay, so if there's a verbatim, this block of text also exists in this other source, it'll give you an originality report that says what percentage is copied from another source, and it'll show you where those sources are from. It'll color code it and show you all the different sources. And, it's a really useful tool. So what we did is we adopted it just this last fall of 2011. Part of the reason we did that is because of the plagiarism survey that we conducted. It reinforced the need for such a tool. In fact, in some of the comment sections of that survey that we conducted, people were specifically stating, both students and faculty, by name, we need something like Turnitin.com. Okay, so it's right in front of our face, so we decided, okay, let's do it. Also, the technology plan, similar comments. We need something like Turnitin.com to subvert plagiarism and student cheating. It also works in D2L. D2L is really our flagship, course management system. I think everybody in the UW system uses that primarily. It plugs in really nicely with the D2L Dropbox if you use that for assignments. So students can submit their assignment to the Dropbox. It automatically scans through Turnitin. You get the plagiarism report, and it all just kind of happens seamlessly and automatically. Okay, D2L, there are also ways that you can subvert academic dishonesty. Release conditions that will require students to complete one task before going on to another, so they can't really see future things or certain content or things like that. Quiz log will tell you what students did and when. So sometimes we'll see that if multiple students were working on a quiz at the same time and answering and saving questions at the same time, when they were explicitly told not to, we have that information. Okay? You can also restrict to certain IP addresses. That's a little more advanced. I don't know if it's ever something you'd want to do, but it is possible. You can randomize questions in a quiz. Okay? So no two students would get the same set of questions in the same order. There's also a tool called Respondus Lockdown Browser. That's not something that we have here at Green Bay, but some of at other campuses you may have that. That's where it literally takes control of your screen, and the only thing you can do while you're taking a quiz in D2L is take a quiz in D2L. You can't open any other browser. You can't access anything else, open any other programs. You can only take that quiz until you're finished. Another thing that's been really popular on our campus is one of our professors created an academic honesty statement where before they take a quiz, the first question is, I agree that by checking this box or whatever it says, that I will not help my other students. It's an academic honesty statement, right? And there's plenty of examples out there. And so by making students do that, he felt that it really helped bring up the overall integrity of the exams. And it became so popular that it almost became like this legend around campus. Like other instructors would say, hey, do you have so-and-so's, I heard about so-and-so's academic honesty statement in his D2L quizzes. Can I get a copy of that? Can I paste that into my own quizzes? And of course he said yes, anybody can use it. And it just kind of expanded like wildfire. Everybody wanted to use the statement in their own quizzes. And they felt that it helped. In fact, is it St. John's in St. Paul, Minneapolis, where they do this academic honesty pledge, right? And it's like this one event. It's the most well-attended event besides graduation at St. John's, where all the students as freshmen come in and do this honesty pledge, and they feel that it just helps the overall integrity of their academic coursework so much. So they know, and they're all agreeing at the same time. So there is no room for, well, I didn't really know, and I didn't understand the policy. You all agreed at the same time, at the same place, right? These are the expectations. There are ways you could do assignments to subvert cheating as well. Personal opinion essays, anything that's maybe unique research or has students respond from a personal perspective, where it's really hard to say, here's what I feel, and then borrow that from somebody else online. I mean, obviously they could, but really getting them to think in terms of being unique and personalizing things can help. Again, the academic honesty pledge, like I mentioned, and the online quiz, the statement about plagiarism. Oh, online quiz about plagiarism, too. That's something that people have done in other classes, where they would make them take a quiz about plagiarism. Do you understand what plagiarism is? What are some examples of it? How should you cite work? So they take that quiz, and they have to reach a certain score in order to go on and take the other quizzes or to do the assignments. Okay, so now that they've gone through that, they don't have, oh, I didn't understand what improper citation was. They took the quiz and they had to pass a certain score. Okay, so that's another thing that could be done. Other tools I mentioned: Respondus, Lockdown Browser. Some campuses are actually, and this is for the really big like online schools, they're sending cameras, webcams, out to their students, and they have remote desktop software. So while they're taking a quiz, they're not only monitoring their screen, but they're also watching them on camera. That's a little too like Big Brothery for me, but people are doing it. They really are. Proctored test centers. That's another thing you could do. You could go, reserve a computer lab, and all your students would have to sit in that lab, and you'd have a proctor, right? But I think that what's motivating students is also a factor. If you just want to get that credit and that grade, maybe you'll pay somebody to take the class for you. But if you really want to learn and gain and get some value from taking the course, that's a reward in itself. So I think that one of the factors, like I mentioned early on, is that we've got this changing information landscape where the value of finding information is almost more important than knowing facts. Right? Why would you want to memorize stuff if you could just go out and Google it? Okay, that's one of the arguments that we hear pretty commonly. We're always connected, right? Kind of like that first point. Why would I need to memorize information if I always have my phone with me and my phone has Google on it? Okay? Information is continually evolving. New information is replacing the old. Encyclopedias aren't as popular anymore because Wikipedia is always up to date, right? I mean, I'm not going to get into the rigor and quality of Wikipedia in this presentation, but just as an example. Lack of proper training at earlier levels. They're not being taught how to cite work. And I see this a lot. When my daughter was learning how to do PowerPoint presentations in second grade, they tell her, here's how you can paste images off of Google and put it in your PowerPoint. Well, they're learning bad copyright practices then, right? And they're teaching them that at second grade. That's going to stick with you throughout into college, because you're being, it's almost like they're teaching them bad habits at an early age. Not just lack of information, but so that's something that should be, hopefully considered. Misalignment between the digital landscape and archaic copyright laws. Okay, so like I said, they're learning these bad copyright practices. Maybe copyright needs to be updated a little bit to take into account this landscape where information is just always available, so public, easily accessed. I mean, I don't know, and I don't have the answers. I know that this is a pretty national debate. We're looking at SOPA and all these different legislation. But I think we're at a point where something's got to give. In the next few years, we're going to see some revisions of copyright law. And like I was saying, Bill, misalignment of motivation. Do students just want that grade? Do they just want the credit? Or do they want self-enrichment? And you can't make students motivate themselves. I mean, you can try, but that really has to come from within. So what can we do? Are we modeling academic honesty in our own materials? Are we citing our own sources? You saw that image at the beginning. I grabbed that off of a Creative Commons page on Flickr, and I gave attribution to the creator of the image. Okay? Do we always remember to do that in our own presentations and our course materials? Because we need to model appropriate behavior for students to learn from that as well. Okay? Do we discuss the nature of information on the web? Do we talk about Wikipedia? About why it may or may not be a valid source? About how to investigate it, right? How to be a critical thinker when we look at Wikipedia? Do we have an open dialogue, or do we just either say it's terrible, don't use it, or just say it's great, use it? I mean, we need to really, it's much more complex than black or white. We need to really examine it, okay? And have that discussion with your students, I think, is useful. And be open about the tools that you have, like if you use the quiz log or the Turnitin anti-plagiarism, because like in Dr. Strangelove, the whole point of the doomsday machine is lost if you keep it secret, okay? So these deterrent measures are better deterrents if students know you have them. You don't even have to use it. Just say, I'm going to scan all your papers for plagiarism, and odds are students will be more diligent about that. So what else can we do?